asked me to personally come here and read to you.
Yo, WWE fam. It's time for another update here on WWE News Update. Smash that subscribe button, ring the bell, and let's get into the ring of news. In the high-pressure world of sports entertainment, emotions often simmer below the surface, and when two powerful personalities collide, even the strongest alliances can shake. One of the most talked-about fictional backstage stories centers on the long, complicated relationship between Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman, a partnership built over years of mutual success, trust, and carefully crafted storytelling. This tale imagines a moment when their bond fractures under the weight of conflicting ambitions, creative changes, and shifting priorities, creating a tension that feels as dramatic as anything fans see in the ring. The roots of a legendary partnership. Brock and Paul's on-screen alliance has always been built on chemistry, intensity, and a deep understanding of how to elevate a narrative. In this fictional version of events, their partnership began to crack long before the confrontation, not because of betrayal or malice, but because of the natural evolution that takes place in a constantly changing industry. With new stars rising and storylines shifting rapidly, the landscape around them changed in ways neither fully anticipated. While Brock continued to thrive as a dominant force and Heyman's creative influence remained strong, the direction of their professional lives started pulling them toward different goals. A return that sparked questions. When Brock returned from one of his breaks, he expected to step seamlessly back into the world he had helped define. But instead of seeing the usual parade of opportunity at his fingertips, he found a product filled with new faces, new ambitions, and new creative approaches. In this fictional account, Paul had spent months guiding multiple storylines, managing shifting priorities, and helping elevate other talent. His influence was everywhere, but it had also placed him in complicated situations where competing loyalties became difficult to balance. Brock's return brought joy, but also uncertainty. Uncertainty about how their professional partnership would fit into this newly reconfigured environment. Misunderstandings turn into tension. In any long-term working relationship, miscommunication can cause cracks, and that's exactly what happens in this dramatized story. Creative decisions were shifting weekly, new story arcs were forming, and Paul found himself navigating countless meetings and adjustments. To Brock, these changes felt like obstacles. To Paul, they were simply part of keeping the show moving. Yet without clear conversation, the space between them widened. What Brock read as indifference or avoidance was, in this fictional narrative, simply Paul juggling responsibilities. And what Paul assumed Brock understood was actually a growing source of frustration for the Beast Incarnate. The confrontation that couldn't be avoided. All of this tension finally came to a head in a private conversation described in this fictional account as intense but controlled, emotional but not explosive. Brock demanded answers, not out of anger, but out of confusion and disappointment. Paul, known for his articulate explanations, attempted to convey how difficult balancing large-scale creative plans had become. Both men realized they had been interpreting the same events in completely different ways. This wasn't betrayal. This wasn't sabotage. This was two powerful figures standing at a crossroads neither had prepared for. Their confrontation became the moment where years of unspoken expectations finally surfaced. Paul's perspective in the aftermath. Paul's side of the story in this fictional retelling is rooted in responsibility. He had been stretched thin, guiding rising stars, supporting ongoing championship arcs, and trying to ensure the overall product remained strong. From his view, he was preserving Brock's legacy, not threatening it. The shifting priorities had nothing to do with personal choices and everything to do with the broader needs of a constantly evolving industry. But even with good intentions, he recognized that he should have communicated more clearly, more consistently, and more transparently. Brock's perspective and his need for clarity. For Brock, the issue wasn't about power or position. It was about honesty, loyalty, and clarity. In this dramatic but fictional story, he wasn't upset because opportunities had shifted. He was upset because he felt blindsided by the changes. He needed straightforward communication, not vague reassurances or assumptions that he already understood the situation. Once the air was cleared, Brock acknowledged that the industry had changed, but he also made it clear that he valued honesty above anything else. Creative ripples. Across the company. In a fictionalized version of the fallout, the creative team found themselves reworking storylines, not because of conflict, but because they wanted to honor the emotional weight of the moment. They saw an opportunity to build richer narratives around both men and give audiences something unexpected. The tension between Brock and Paul became a source of inspiration rather than division, prompting writers to explore new angles, unexpected alliances, and fresh rivalries that could carry the show into its next era. Support, opinions, and divided voices. Within this fictional universe, other performers and staff naturally offered opinions. Some empathized with Brock's desire for straightforward communication, while others understood Paul's struggle to balance creative demands with personal loyalties. None of it was hostile. Instead, it became part of the natural ebb and flow of a collaborative environment. People cared because both Brock and Paul had spent years shaping the very foundation they worked upon, turning a rift into opportunity. One of the most powerful elements of this story is that, instead of letting the situation damage their legacy, both men chose growth. Brock expressed a desire to move forward with clarity and mutual respect, while Paul committed to being more open, communicative, and mindful of how shifting priorities affected their understanding of each other. Rather than seeking revenge or retaliation, their fictional confrontation becomes the beginning of a new, more honest chapter in their partnership, one grounded in experience rather than assumption. The broader impact on storytelling. From a creative standpoint, this fictional tension reshaped the possibilities on screen. With real emotion woven into their storyline arcs, both men gained new depth and new direction. Their characters could now explore themes of trust, loyalty, change, and resilience, topics that resonate deeply with fans. The writers use this moment not as a setback, but as a chance to reinvent narratives and elevate the product. A future built on understanding. In the end, this rewritten fictional account frames Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman not as enemies torn apart by betrayal, but as two influential figures navigating the complex, evolving world of sports entertainment. Their moment of conflict becomes a powerful reminder that even the strongest partnerships require communication, adaptation, and understanding. The future ahead of them, professionally and narratively, holds endless potential, renewed alliances, bold creative risks, and stories that capture exactly why fans care so deeply about both men. Their journey continues, enriched rather than diminished by the challenges they face together.